Monday, May 12th, regular meeting of the Marquette City Commission. Would everyone please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have to wait just a moment to get our TVs going. Okay, City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Your Honor. Commissioner Kimbenzi.
Here.
Commissioner Campana.
Here.
Commissioner Coyne.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Here. And Mayor Nemi.
Here. Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, are there any changes proposed to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion would be in order to approve the agenda? Commissioner Ryan?
I move the agenda be approved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Campana? Second. Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Campana to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I would call for the vote. All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. Announcements. I don't have a lot of announcements. One I'd like to call attention to. Next Wednesday we'll be having a work session on the proposed rowing club boathouse. The Mining Journal yesterday said that it was this Wednesday. They put a correction in today, but I just want everyone to be aware that the work session will be next Wednesday, not tomorrow. Boards and commissions, we don't have any appointments or recognizing anyone who's ending or recognizing anyone who's joined a board, so I think I will let everyone enjoy a list of openings that we have. We have quite a few. The Aging Services Advisory Committee, we need one representative whose interest is health care. Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, we have 4 openings. The Board of Zoning Appeals, we have 3 openings. The Harbor Advisory Committee, we have 3 openings. The Local Officers Compensation Commission, we have 2 openings. The Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board, we have 1 opening and an opening for an alternate member. The Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, we have 2 openings. The Marquette Housing Commission, 1 opening. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 opening. Planning Commission, 1 opening. Police Fire Pension Board, 1 opening. Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee, 1 opening. Sister City Committee, 6 openings. And Traffic Parking Advisory, 2 openings. And I'd like to encourage people to volunteer for these boards and committees. If you are interested in local government at all, this is a good way to get involved. They're all interesting areas depending on your particular flavor of interest. It's easy to apply. On our website we have a application. It's a PDF file that you can fill out online, print out. You can actually email it into the city manager's office. You can stop in the city clerk's office or the manager's office and get an application, fill it out by hand. However you desire it, it's quite easy to apply. So we encourage people to apply. It's important that we have volunteers filling out our boards and commissions. They do a lot of work for the city. They do a lot of support work for us, and we couldn't do our job without it. In fact, I guess that's a nice segue into the first presentation. We have Chairman Dan Emmendorfer here from the Investment Advisory Board to give us a briefing on the activities of the board. Mr. Emmendorfer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here just to give you a brief annual report on the City Investment Advisory. I'll definitely try to make it brief. I know you got a lot of work ahead of you. To give you a little bit of background, this board was established by the City of Marquette Commission back in 1980, and we are established because of the Public Act of 1943, Public Act 20 of 1943 as amended. We also are trying to adhere to that policy with keeping all these investments very safe and secure in conformance with any additional state laws, state or local ordinances that are governing of public funds. A little bit of insight on the board members. There's 5 of us. 3 of us are public employees or public at large. 2 of them are appointed by virtue of their positions. I, of course, am your chairman of this board, but vice chair is Carol Johnson. She's been with us for about a year and a half, October of 2012, I believe. We have Dwayne Nygaard, who is really our rookie member. He's been with us for just a little over a year. And then we have the city chief financial officer, Gary Simpson, and we have Diane Giddens, who is the city treasurer and also our board secretary. All of us complete that board, but I'd like to thank them publicly for the other board members' input and efforts on making this board work so well. And also to follow up on the Mayor Nemi's comments, please, if you in the public have an interest in this, please grab an application off the website or at the city manager's office and apply. Our meetings for the City Investment Board are held on a quarterly basis. We usually hold them at 8 to 9 a.m. Down in room 103 of the City Hall here. And they usually last about an hour, so if you have any interest in seeing what's going on, please feel free to attend. The investment policy is managed, as we said, in accordance with Public Act 20. The City Commission updated this, or established this in 1997, updated in 2008. And then the funds are invested with strict adherence to safety, security, judicial decisions, legal opinions from there. Also, if we take a look at the current portfolio, this is as of January 31st of 2014. Current balance is $24,693,803. This essentially is the city's checkbook, and you can see the date of purchase of the different investments, the institution at where they're held, maturities, yields, and the amount in each fund. Our current portfolio yield on the portfolio is 1.11% as of January 31st. While that may not seem like a whole lot in today's environment for a checkbook, that is actually very competitive. So move on. Our goals. We essentially at each meeting are looking at the different investments with the current, with an idea of their maturities, what we have coming up, and then what the landscape looks like with current events. And then we monitor all that, keeping in mind the city's cash flow needs throughout the year, when some days they might need more than others. And then we also have the task of doing a semi-annual review. There are special assessments that the city from time to time will have, and we set the interest rate with our board on that special assessment, and then any terms of for repayment should that become part of it. Our accomplishments. In 2008, we received a Certificate of Excellence Award for the Association of Public Treasurers. And then also for this year, it's our 27th year for receiving an Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Financial Officers Association, and that's for 27 consecutive years. So we hope to continue and make it 28 and so on. Marquette has certainly been considered very strong in its fiscal policies in the last several years, so we have some very strong board members who have helped make that happen. And with that, I won't bore you anymore, but any questions or concerns?
Any questions, fellow commissioners? Mr. Ryan?
I think it might be helpful just to give the people in the audience here and at home a chance to understand what the board does, how it approaches its assignment.
Well, the way we approach our assignment is we go out and we research, first of all, the institutions, the institutions we invest money with. We go out and look at their qualities. They have to have a certain rating and standard and be within 1 or 2 standards. For example, a lot of people may have heard of Standard & Poor's. Okay, so we have to do investment grade on the bonds we offer. They have to be investment grade, and then you can the highest, their rating can maybe be one notch below, and we try to adhere to that and make sure that the investments we select have that type of rating. And then we also look at maturity rates and what the Fed's funds rate is and what we think the landscape is going to be for interest rates down the road. And should we invest these investments with longer maturities or shorter maturities, depending on what we expect the interest rates to be in the future.
Well, I want to thank you for your efforts, and let me say I agree with you that 1.1% doesn't sound like much, but in today's investment environment, it's pretty good. And I realize you have a bigger checkbook than I do, but my interest rate is probably close to zero on mine. So you guys are doing a pretty good job. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Coyne?
Dan, it's also true that you cannot invest in equities. Is that the case because of the state laws?
Yes.
And that, I mean, if you could, you would be doing better, but you're limited by what you can invest in.
Right.
Because these are public funds.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. If they were listening to say 1% isn't very good in today's market, but you're limited to very low risk investments, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, I guess hearing none, I would like to thank you, Mr. Emmendorfer, and I'd like to thank you for your service and the board's service. The money the taxpayers give us in trust is critical for us, and we need to make sure that it's put to work when it's not needed and that it's safeguarded until then. So,
Oh, you're welcome,
Thank
and
you.
thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation by our Assistant City Manager, Kyle Whitney, on the All-America City Award.
Just 1 second while I find myself. Okay.
Okay, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor, Commissioners, for giving me an opportunity to briefly update you all on a community project the city has been involved with recently. Some of you in recent weeks might have heard about the All-America City Award. Prior to that, you might have heard about it some 8 years ago, 20 years ago. Just a brief overview, the National Civic League, the logo of which you see in the bottom left there, is a municipal organization. It's a nonpartisan, nonprofit, kind of a best practices network that operates on a national basis. And one of the main things that they do every year is they host the All-America City Award, which itself is kind of a highlight of that best practices network. It provides a kind of a best of the best of what cities, townships, and counties around the country are doing. Those applicants are asked to identify key projects that make them an All-America City. And as you see, they've been putting that award out since 1949, giving away about 10 a year. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 communities have received the award, 17 of them from Michigan. And as it says on the screen there, to win, they want you to include or demonstrate innovation, inclusiveness, civic engagement, and cross-sector collaboration, kind of on a large scale. Our history more locally with the award, the city of Marquette has been in some way involved with 4 applications previously for the All-America City Award. The four years listed, or 4 seasons listed, I guess. The 2003 application, the city was a part of an application that was submitted on behalf of the county of Marquette. That was a finalist in 2003 for the award, and it was one of the 10 winners that year. And that's why you'll occasionally see the phrasing, Marquette is a premier city in an all-America county. It's kind of what that stems from. So more recently, city staff started working toward spearheading an application for 2014 late last fall. In September, there were some early contacts with the National Civic League and the All-America Cities group there. In November, we reached out as staff and we brought in some community partners, kind of cast a wide net to get a group at the table that could kind of explain what was happening in Marquette, highlight some of the best that they thought was going on, and we all kind of sat down in a room for a couple of sessions and just threw stuff at a wall and saw kind of what came to the top. And I mean, these are groups from the library to the YMCA to the public schools and NMU. A lot of the trail networks, the DDA was involved, the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And through that process, we came to, you know, the core concepts of what we wanted to include in an application. We did some data gathering and some, you know, first-person interviews with the organizations that were involved. Submitted the application in March, which came in at about 10,000 words and 21 pages or something like that. And then last month, the National Civic League announced the 25 finalists. Just a really brief recap of our application. We can provide that to all of you. It's certainly public information. They break it down into 4 sections, and the first section is kind of an introductory story of the community, which we use to kind of spell history to the present day in Marquette. It touched on some of the organizations currently operating here, some of the larger things that have happened in the past to get us to where we are. And it also focused on some of the unique challenges we face, whether that's you know, separation from markets or distance even from the capital in our own state, to some of the weather challenges that we face. Then there are 3 project sections where you highlight projects that make your community unique. And what we had tried to focus on, we made it a little more thematic rather than highlighting specific projects. We did themes. The theme for the entire application for the National Civic League this year is healthy communities. So our first project was living healthy through food, or healthy living through food, I think was the title. We focused on the Marquette Food Co-op and some of the regional and local food aspects of that, the regional food network they're building, and then focused on the last 5 to 10 years of their business and the support that they've gotten in the community and the growth that they've seen in the community. Same thing can be said for the DDA Farmers Market that's in the Commons every week during the summer. They've seen great growth over time. The second component of that was kind of an environmental aspect, and it's a little wide-ranging, but that portion starts with the city and the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority reclaiming some of the land that was Marquette 30, 40 years ago, from the tank farm in Lower Harbor to the former chemical company to the north. Clark Park is mentioned in there, and with that change comes a lot of the community efforts that you see today, whether it's waterfront safety efforts that are brought forth by, you know, the need for that because the community is going to those locations now, to the trail networks that come in. We talked about the NTN, which is running trails in the Heartwood Forest land and all around town, to the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, to the North Country Trail, which Marquette is now a trail town for. And then the final component of the application was an educational and cultural component, and we focused on the Your Mind Matters series from Peter White Public Library, which actually kind of created the backbone for them winning the National Medal of Library Science. And then from the YMCA, we talked about the LiveWise program, which is a program for early onset Alzheimer's patients and their loved ones to go through and kind of learn about the disease, learn about how to best cope with it. So this is just a map. 25 finalist cities were named across the country in 16 states, and one is Marquette, one is Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and everybody else is pretty far away. So now what we're going to be doing, you'll see on the agenda tonight, you're being presented with a request to name a city commission delegate to the annual conference, which is held in Denver this spring, technically, June 13th to 15th. And while there, we're going to fashion a delegation of Marquette representatives to give a 10-minute stage presentation, representative of the written application, but also branching out and kind of highlighting some of the other great things that are happening in Marquette. And then the follow-up to that is going to be a 10-minute Q&A. There's a panel of judges there that will ask you to expound and talk about challenges that were faced in implementing some of these projects. And then it's at that conference that, that they'll actually name the 10 winners. So that'll be in June. We have sent out invitations for attendance from some of those groups that were mentioned, the co-op, the YMCA, and Peter White Public Library being the key components of that application. And then some of the other local groups that I mentioned earlier as well, we sent out applications to them asking if they had interest to please send a delegate our way. Like I said, we're going to put together a stage presentation there, and that's pretty much all I had for today. I don't know if you guys had any other questions, and certainly I'll be available when the agenda item comes up later as well.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Kyle? No questions? I guess you're completed. Thank you for the presentation, Kyle. Look forward to you bringing back the award. Okay, the next item is public comment. Comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Please state your name and physical address when making public comments, and use the podium in front of the dais to make those comments.
Hi, I'm Don Potman from 1027 North Front Street in the city of Marquette. I'm going to ask one more time to Mr. Coyne and Mr. Stonehouse, would you please keep your promise to me that you made earlier and not allow mining trucks within the city of Marquette streets? You were very strident about it then. I wish you'd get a little bit better on it now. I would ask the rest of you to vote no on the proposal by Lundin. In a very short time today, I identified at least 15 items of interest, 15 of them which favor only Lundin, not the city of Marquette. I will send you each a missile tomorrow in writing of these items and maybe a few more. I'd like you to study them, think of them, ponder them, pray over them if you must, and come up with a good decision. I would like you also to announce tonight a public hearing on this item as you have for the building for the rowing club. I think it's all as important, if not more important, in the long run. This is an 8-year problem, going to be anchored with a contract which can't be broken by a new and smarter commission or a wiser commission or whatever it is. It's tied in. It was very slick of you people to do that. I would suggest that it's very true that Lundin has had the need for a road for a long time, at least 5, the other people preceding them and Lundin, for at least 5 years or more. It was up to them to make it happen and get a road that would work. They didn't, because I think they were leaning on and counting on the city caving in before they would, by far. Lundin has the ability to pay. They have the need. We don't have the need for the trucking through town. They have the huge profits at the long run that they're going to realize as of this, and it'll probably be larger because, as I understand, there's much more to be mined out there. But we're giving up an 8-year thing with a lot of problems attendant with it, noise, pollution of air, whatever you can think of. There's just all kinds of hazards with this thing. And there was no need for them to come through the city. 510 is a viable haul road. It could have been improved. It's shorter by far than anything they're doing now. So I just wish that you would think about it, and I'll send you those things. Would you please give them some consideration? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin.
Hello, Kelly Drake Woodward, 951 Highland Drive in Marquette. I'm here speaking to you as the president of the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club. I want to thank you all for your support for the community boathouse, acknowledging that it was based on positive recommendations from the Harbor Advisory Committee, the Park and Rec Advisory Board, and the Planning Commission. We know it's not easy to serve in a public leadership role, so we appreciate your hard work and conscientious attention. Rowing is a unique experience. The success for any particular row really depends on how well the entire crew works together. So we spend hours individually teaching people the ideal technique. But even so, the most important factor for the success of any particular row is that every person must be willing to make small adjustments to their own technique, pressure, and timing, depending on who's rowing stroke or who's rowing right in front of them. So this is all for the greater good of moving in sync with everyone else. We understand there's never only one right way to row. So similarly, we realize there's not one right location or one right design for this community boathouse. We know the chosen location has generated some valid concerns. So in preparation for the upcoming work session, we are preparing information on all sites within the Lower Harbor that meet our safety criteria. And we also hope that those who are in opposition to the current proposal will also come in a spirit of inclusiveness and compromise and be willing to suggest a location or a design that will satisfy their concerns. Some of the people who have signed the petition have told us what they were told and why they signed. We find that many of these perceptions are based on misunderstandings or wrong information. One person told us that they were told the development would be similar to the condos except on the beach. And that's a far cry from the basement type of building that we have designed that's almost identical to the existing observation deck. And that's just an example. So we just urge caution in accepting those signatures at face value and suggest maybe some random phone calls just to talk to people and see what their perceptions are. We would reserve some time to speak to agenda item number 4 if you have any questions about the annual lease to store the shells at the launch site.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. Anyone else?
Hello. My name is Deb Jean. I live at 121 Old Saloon Trail, Marquette. I have been a member of the rowing club for 7 years. Contrary to what the petitioners are claiming, we are not trying to build a clubhouse for an exclusive private club. Just the opposite. Our proposed boathouse plan invites the public to the shore of Lake Superior while protecting the valuable equipment of the UP communities and NMU's rowing clubs. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We do not utilize public funds. For an organization to be classified as a 501c3, it must have an exempt purpose, either scientific, charitable, or religious. Fostering amateur sports competition is included under the charitable designation. This club is a volunteer-based organization, and we could not provide the community with the opportunity to row without the generosity of our volunteers. Last year, members donated more than 750 hours instructing or facilitating others in the sport of rowing. These hours were spent coxing our boats or operating the safety launch for others to be able to row. Many more volunteer hours were spent planning, coaching, maintaining, or moving equipment. Again, so all those who wish to row were able to do so. We believe in giving to the community. The club recently acquired funds to purchase a rowing machine at Bothwell Middle School for special needs students. Along with this gift comes the commitment to volunteer within the school to develop programming. You will also see our club members volunteering at the chicken barbecue, the food festival, the annual spring cleanup, as well as picking up trash along the beach at Founders Landing. Kelly Drake Woodward, our president, reached out to the Hiawatha Water Trail Group to address any need kayakers may have for storage at the boathouse. Jeremy Vore's response was, "This is a great benefit to paddlers who are following the Hiawatha Water Trail." Club representatives met with Sarah Pura from the Superior Alliance of Independent Living regarding the inclusion of a universal access dock within our project. Ms. Pura has stepped forward with a letter of support on behalf of SAIL, as well as spoken in favor of the boathouse at a previous commission meeting. We are a community rowing club, and anyone can join. Our club dues are significantly lower than any other rowing club in the United States. We have reduced fees for youth, and there is a scholarship program for those that feel the dues present a financial burden. So, who is this community boathouse for? It's for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jean. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Tenzie Parsons, 1023 North Front Street, about the proposed community boathouse project. With all due respect to the Citizens for Marquette Lakeshore Preservation, their task force from 1998, I'd like to maybe say it could be a little out of date and obsolete. There have been many other Marquette public forums that have been done. In 2011, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan was updated, and if I can quote from page 33, the South Rail Yards in Marquette's Lower Harbor is a former rail yard and fuel depot undergoing major transformation. The brownfield site has been cleaned and capped and is being redeveloped to a residential and commercial area. Much of Lake Superior shoreline is being reserved for public open space with a shared use, a path, and access to the waterfront. Page 47 of that master plan from 2011 also says, privately operated facilities are playing an increasing important role in providing recreational opportunities to the community. With the increase in leisure time and the demand for recreation, the public sector cannot supply all the activities that are desired by the residents. The Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club fills these roles to provide public recreation to the community. The UPCRC is a nonprofit, volunteer-based recreational outlet for our community. The proposed project will enhance access to the beach, encouraging public beachfront activity in that location. The rowing club will not be taking over your beaches, as someone circulating the petition has been heard saying. Rowers don't use the beach, they use the water. And in order to continue to grow their programming, which is offered to the public, the rowing clubs, NMU included, need a location to safely store their equipment and offer year-round rowing opportunities. Due to the unique requirements of rowing shells, Founders Landing location best fits the bill. It presents the adequate space for maneuvering 60-foot rowing shells. That's 6-0. These boats can't bend around corners. These are the size of semi-trucks. We need the room to do so. Founders Landing location offers a calm water required. You can't row in waves and heavy surf. It offers an area that is free of boat congestion, motorboat congestion, and wake, which are issues for all human-powered watercraft. The NTN also uses volunteer manpower to groom its trails, provide recreation. Some of their trails are within city limits, and a membership or trail pass is required to use them. I don't mountain bike. I don't use these trails to ski or hike. I don't play soccer. I don't play baseball. I don't figure skate. I also have never had any children going to any area public schools. These are all recreational and educational facilities that in some way or another my taxes or money from city are going towards. I don't use these facilities, but I know they are here for the benefit of my community, and so I support their presence. A facility for human-powered watercraft is obviously best suited on the waterfront, and the accessible, non-motorized small watercraft launch site in the lower harbor.
Parsons, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Go ahead.
Ann Pearson, 603 Mather Avenue, Ishpeming. I'm a former collegiate rower, 19-year veteran teacher at Marquette Area Public Schools, and I'm the nine-year volunteer coach for the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club youth rowing program. Started it with Terry Daring, who is a Marquette resident and business owner. What do the following cities have in common? Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Lansing, Duluth, and Boston. They're all cool cities with boathouses and youth rowing programs. In fact, Boston recognizes the cool factor of rowing so much that they put a collegiate rowing team on the cover of their photos travel guide. So, and I believe I left it right here. Of all the cool things to see in Boston, what makes the front cover? Rowing. Why should we invest so much volunteer time in youth rowing specifically? Rowing is a lifetime sport that develops skills that are extremely beneficial at the college and in the workforce levels. More importantly, it teaches the ability to work as a team towards a common goal. Mothers and sons, fathers and daughters, Rowing is multi-generational, and we often have parents rowing with their children in the same boat. In fact, I'm hoping to be the first one to be rowing with my grandchildren. Last year alone, we had adult volunteers over 110 hours just to get our youth on the water in one season. Scholarships were provided to those that couldn't pay. Several of our youth have gone on to collegiate rowing at Division I and II schools, and some of them come back and are paying it forward by assisting coaching and coxing their volunteering and appreciation for what services we provided them. So why do we need a boathouse in protected waters? Our equipment is very expensive and fiberglass deteriorates. The open equipment is subject to vandalism and weather. The Traverse City Club is also without a boathouse. They started roughly around when we did. They lost most of their fleet of boats in a bad storm. A new boat costs about $30,000 a piece. They're expensive, and they're also very expensive to transport, even if you purchase used boats. Last year, several of our youth developed rashes on their limbs from the breakdown of the fiberglass on those sun-beaten oars. And our oars were new when we purchased them, but they've been out in the weather so much. More importantly, though, is the weather conditions. As a youth coach, I feel an enormous responsibility for the safety of those youngsters that I am taking out on Lake Superior. Anyone who spends time on the water knows that wind, waves, and fog all appear in a moment's notice. Turns Lake Superior into a witch's cauldron. I went and met with the Coast Guard with my friend Deb Jean here, and they showed us. Pardon?
You finish up.
Okay, the Coast Guard station said it's imperative that we row where they can get to us for a quick rescue within 5 minutes. So the boathouse needs to be in a safe location, and it will be a wonderful community resources for ages 14 through 80, and it will add to the cool city's mystique of Marquette. So please support safe rowing and the boathouse plan for Marquette.
Thank you.
Frank Jeff Barito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette, to speak on items 4 and 5. These are my opinions. You've had trouble having this microphone on at meeting time. You keep interrupting comments to turn it on, and you're not getting everything on record. Anyone can trip out a time or two, but this frequency is out of control and indicative of the value you place on public input, Mr. Nemi. April 28th, you heard of the Presque Isle Board's procedure to monitor and report island graffiti for timely removal. They also recommend point of interest signs at the Pavilion and Sunset Point. Am I delivering this comment to you, Mr. Nemi, or?
No, you're not. Going it to the audience.
Signs detract from the natural scenery. At the Pavilion is fine, but not at scenic wonders like Sunset Point. Why are there timely arrangements to remove graffiti at the park, but not the rest of town? We're still reminded of Gurko the Jerko wherever we walk. You are told again to make that punk take responsibility for himself. Some of us care about how our city appears. I thank the rowing spokesperson for her compliment regarding the boathouse. However, her claim that she answered my concern is untrue. What she sent was a prompt, courteous response, as read into our April 14th record. No one from the commission or rowing club ever explained why no details were publicly divulged about not using the current Skull site, once preferred by the rowers. April 28th, Campana suggested a meeting to explain why the recycling site was chosen, yet he opted not to make a similar recommendation for the boathouse. The boathouse site is more important to more people than the recycling zone. You people have a strange way of picking your priorities and what information you choose to share versus withhold. You've since scheduled a work session. Regarding the dump, Dennis told us the lighting must be contained on the property, no bleed over in his words. Shielding doesn't keep a lit area from being visible from a good ways off depending on the topography. Our definitions differ on what constitutes bleed over as well as the appreciation of a dark night. Coyne asked the dump opponents to return for site plan review. Why? They already stated their concerns April 28th. Coyne expects them to show up again to repeat themselves as though our time is that cheap. In fact, why waste their time to show up at all for a done deal? This is the same delay tactic you pulled by reminding us of the upcoming boathouse agreement. April 28th, Ryan mentioned his goal to explain why you're deciding as you are on the smart zone, but again, why not the boathouse? Compenzi said preservation is a strong thread in our community. The rest of you need to learn the value of preservation. April 28th, barely after 10 o'clock, Reynolds and Ryan mentioned the late hour. If you don't expect some meetings to exceed 10 o'clock, please don't run. A member's closing comment should never be cut short on account of time. They could have used the time to address public comments, yet only Compenzi mentioned the boathouse. For those who can't make Wednesday's session, you're expected to incorporate all the previous testimony you've heard. If you don't possess that talent, you're not qualified for this job.
Thank you, Mr. Barato.
Good evening. My name is Rita Hodgins. I reside at 1402 Kimber Avenue in Marquette. One of the reasons for the great city we are is because we own miles of Lake Superior shoreline that is 100% accessible to all our citizens and our guests in this community. The citizens to preserve our lakeshore have continued to go door to door with our petition. We want you to know that we are 100% behind the rowing club. We think they are a tremendous asset to this community. We think their shells on the beach are a wonderful sight. We think their youth out in the water in the shells is a wonderful sight. We are not opposed to the rowing club. Currently, we have 64 new online signatures, 172 in-person signatures. We've been out collecting signatures for about 20 hours. To date, we have 442 signatures. I have a packet for you, and I'd like to call your attention to page 1. 9 former mayors have signed the petition. Mayor Ledbetter signed online. In person, former Mayor Jerry Irby, former Mayor Robert Moore, former Mayor Stuart Bradley, former Mayor Holly Greer, former Mayor Tom Turville, former Mayor Frank Shotto, former Mayor Cameron House, former Mayor Robert Barabee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hodgins.
Good evening, Jorma Lankinen. I've been remiss being here for a few months, and I like the compliments on new TVs and much more clarity for the audience to participate and being able to read what the presenters are doing. So I thank you for having the new electronics here for us. I'd like to reserve time on number 5, the Lundin. And I'd briefly like to just talk about the rowing club. I'm personally in favor of it. If you recall, the soccer fields, which was a city private venture, and at some point the soccer people paid, and it's a public facility, and people get to use it and rent it and all this other good stuff. With the rowing people, they're willing to pay for this thing all on their own. And really, if people are really upset, there's a Marquette community boathouse fact sheet they put out on April 12th of 2014, frequently asked questions, and it really just answers a ton of questions on people that are looking at it negatively and all the positive things that this can do. And yeah, there's always going to be naysayers on whatever we do in the world. It's America and it's a free speech, but if you want to be a naysayer and always say nay for anything that is there, it doesn't really do anything for the community at large at all. And by the looks of all the data that's being put together with these individuals, it's good for the entire community. It doesn't take away the beachfront. People still have room for their beachfront at 75 feet from the setback. They have to meet all the rules and regulations as we do as builders. They have to meet all of those as have been put forth by the zoning commission, and you, the commission. And so the benefits really, I look at, outweigh any of the potential negatives, and that's why we have so many things in our community, because people are willing to fight for things that really promote the entire community, and this really promotes a huge portion of the community. I'm not a rower at all. You look at my physique, I mean, I could probably use rowing more than the next guy, but as an overall community project, I think this is just incredibly fabulous. It puts Marquette on another notch above everybody else, and I really, really encourage that you guys look at it. And take a look at, if you haven't seen this fact sheet, really take a look at the fact sheet, and it really answers all of these questions that people have put together. It can answer much better than I can, but after I read this, I really encourage you guys to look favorably on it. Again, thank you for your time, and again, I liked electronics.
Thank you, Mr. Lincoln.
My name is Craig Miller, and I live at 1013 Alloway Road. On the subject of the boathouse, I support it. I've had a chance to read the fact sheet, and I'm pretty satisfied that it would be an asset to the community, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Hi, I'm Gail Braden, 3114 Island Beach Road. I'm speaking for the rowing club. I've been with the rowing club for 10 years. I was a charter member and first president, and I'm currently serve on the board. I'd just like to correct a little bit of the misinformation and some misperceptions published by those who oppose our project. Any hint that this project would cost the taxpayers money or take from grants that really belong to the city is wrong. The boathouse will be funded by the rowing club. The maintenance costs will be paid by the rowing club. The club is not eligible for DNR trust fund or passport grants because it is not a municipality. So we will not be taking any grant money that should belong to Marquette's taxpayers. I firmly believe that the rowing club is a powerful force for good in our community. I believe it does improve our cool factor. It does. I think we could be on the panel for the All-American City Award and speak for the city of Marquette. I have no doubt in my heart about that at all. I'm definitely a lifer in this club. I believe in it with every fiber of my being. And I believe that a permanent lakeshore home for our club would enhance our local effectiveness, protect our valuable equipment, as others have said, provide off-season training, and it would strengthen our relationship with Northern Michigan University's crew and allow them to grow, strengthen, and protect their equipment as well. This is a special use building which would act really as a portal to the majesty that is Lake Superior. And it would be there for silent sports enthusiasts. It would be there for disabled people who would like to kayak. It provides a place where we can not only sit and look on top on the observation deck, but actually get into the water and interact and engage with Lake Superior in a very safe and healthy way that does not damage Lake Superior in any way. And as others have said, the beach would be 100% accessible to the citizens of Marquette. We will not block the beach. And as Tenzi so eloquently said, we're in the water. We're not on the beach. And I think that's an excellent point. To say that someone is for the boathouse and for the club, but against a location for the boathouse, which is on the shoreline, is disingenuous. We cannot have a boathouse in Trowbridge Park. It's not feasible. It's not desirable. And as Kelly, our president, mentioned, if we could come to the table with a spirit of compromise, those who want to preserve what we have here and those who want to add to the beauty of Marquette, that I think would be the spirit to come to the table with for this work session. And thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Braden. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
My name is Matt Johnson, 132 Dukes Road, Scandia. I'm here representing Eagle Mine, and Your Honor and City Commission, I'd like to reserve time for item number 5 on the agenda in the event that it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else wishing to address the commission or reserve time on an agenda item? Yes.
My name is Catherine Parker. I live at 322 West Ohio Street in Marquette. I hadn't prepared anything, but the Lundin's transportation route has been kind of a hobby of mine for the past couple of years. I followed all the various options and their advantages and disadvantages. I just wanted to caution the city about accepting Lundin's terms in this agreement. I don't know that you need to allow that many trucks to pass through on a daily basis. Perhaps that could be limited. And I wanted to remind the City Commission that this is a company that literally, if you give them an inch, they take a mile. If you want an example of that, look on Yellow Dog Watershed Preserve's website. There's an aerial photograph of what looks like a freeway being built on the Yellow Dog Plains. This was not necessary. They could have limited their impacts out there. The people who know and love this place, the people who live out there, are horrified. People are in tears over it. It didn't have to be this way. I encourage you to go out and look at it. I can send you ground photos, or I can arrange to have aerials sent to the commission. I urge you to take time to think of this and limit their impacts as much as possible in every aspect of their operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? You've done it once already, Mr. Mayor. Pardon?
I'm Lundin.
Oh, okay, you want to
Yes. My name is Craig Miller.
You can do it when we get to that item.
Oh,
You
I'm
can't
sorry.
do a second commission comment, but I'll call you up at that item.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to address the commission? Hearing none, I guess we will move forward with the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have a number of items on the consent agenda. Commissioners, what is your pleasure with the consent agenda? Commissioner Ryan?
Move the consent agenda be approved.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
I will
Thank
second
you.
the motion.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse to approve the consent agenda as presented. Anything further, Commissioner Ryan?
Just routine items, and pleased to see that we're moving ahead with Cinder Pond Marina issues as we had promised we would as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Anything further, Commissioner Stonehouse?
No.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse to approve the consent agenda as written. All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business, the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club lease agreement. This is the lease agreement that we've been doing for a number of years. It's not the controversial boathouse. City Clerk, do you have some background on this item?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Since 2009, the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club has leased space at Founders Landing to store their trailer and rowing shells and launch and retrieve rowing shells from the adjacent beach area. For the 2014 rowing season, the club has requested a 6-month lease, May 1st, 2014 through November 1st, 2014 for this purpose. The total rent amount is determined to be $417 based on 75 cents per square foot. The city attorney prepared the lease agreement being considered. Fiscal effect, the city will receive $417 in rent under the lease agreement. Recommendation: approve the 6-month lease agreement with the UPCRC and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Mr. Barito, you wish to address us on this item?
Frank Jeff Barito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. What another coincidence. The lease agreement that faces you at this minute occurs at one of our city's most contentious spots. Strange that of all the sites along our entire shoreline, the rowers are leasing this particular site, the place that's worked best for their own stated objectives. If it's the best spot to lease their sculls, it's in the best vicinity for a boathouse. All the attributes they just mentioned for the proposed location are better achieved at the current spot. They lease space here because the clearing allows for convenient storage and easy lake access well within safe harbor confines of the breakwall. In fact, closer to the inner harbor by 1,000 feet. Here also lies better potential for future parking and infrastructure. So long as they're paying us money to lease this particular space, the rowing club and commission both ought to explain why this isn't also the best vicinity for a boathouse, so long as this site appears on tonight's agenda and is under discussion right now.
Thank you, Mr. Barito. Okay, commissioners, what is your pleasure with the proposed lease agreement with the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club? One. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
I have a motion to approve the 6-month lease agreement with the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Ryan?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Stonehouse and seconded by Commissioner Ryan to approve the lease agreement with the Peninsula Community Rowing Club. Anything further, Commissioner Stonehouse?
Only that we've been leasing this property to them for a number of years, and this is really not a change in anything we're doing.
Okay. Commissioner Ryan, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, we all know there are broader issues going on about the rowing club, but this is really a matter of keeping an existing program going at the location where it's been, and I think it's important to do that while these other issues are resolved.
Thank you. Any other commissioner desire to comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's been moved by Commissioner Stonehouse, seconded by Commissioner Ryan, to approve the 6-month lease agreement with the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed say no. The motion is passed unanimously. We are now to new business. The next item is a proposed Lundin hauling agreement. City Clerk, do you have some background to read on this?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The Eagle Mine and Lundin Mining, LLC, have received approval from the state of Michigan to operate a mining operation in North Marquette County. Over the past 7 years, several transportation alternatives for moving ore from the mine to the benefaction facilities have been proposed. The City, County Road Commission, neighboring townships, and Northern Michigan University remain committed to a long-term solution that bypasses the heavily populated urban areas within their respective jurisdictions. To that end, a coordinated regional transportation white paper was submitted to the Michigan legislature identifying short, mid, and long-term regional needs. The City Commission appointed a subcommittee in August 2013 to lead policy coordination discussions with surrounding jurisdictions and commercial interests. The focus of their efforts included evaluation of short and long-term solutions, as well as determining best fit options for minimizing undesirable or unanticipated impacts on other community quality of life interests. A detailed timeline and level of effort document is attached also. As a result of these discussions, Eagle Mine and Lundin Mining, LLC seek to compensate the City of Marquette for wear and tear / maintenance of city roads used as a haul route between their facilities. The proposed agreement attached includes specific identification of the route to be used, characterization of the haul traffic, and a schedule of payments to be made for maintenance and capital improvements. It must be noted that the proposal specifically provides for early termination upon successful implementation of any bypass solution, as well as provisos for continued use and compensation to the city in the event the bypass is not realized. It should be further noted that the agreement provides for additional annual payments to be used for public safety improvements that address previously identified community and area concerns. Fiscal effect per the attached schedule. Recommendation: consider the proposed Lundin hauling agreement, and if approved, authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Mr. Barito, you've also indicated an interest to speak on this item.
Frank Jeff Barito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. You've taken us back to April 26, 2010, when you were, quote, reminded of an earlier commission's approval of a truck route west on Wright Street to US 41. They cared less whether any safe way existed for semis to make the Michigan left. They blundered so foolishly they needed to rescind their decision at the next meeting, end quote. They were warned of the left turn in advance and still voted that way. July 28, 2013, you were reminded that we're not past the controversy you created over the alleged waste of 3,000 tax dollars to farm out legal services for a truck route. April 12, 2013, you heard of an August 6th article regarding the truck route financing in which Mr. Ryan is quoted saying, "I think we have to be proactive here and start really making plans. We kind of have to face up to the reality," end quote. Why weren't you proactive years ago when you knew full well of the preferred haul route, yet Ryan still endorsed the mine? Now it's 9 months later and we're still haggling over this uninvited fiasco, facing the same April 2010 recommendation, except now with feasible access at US 41. But consider the noise and carbon monoxide added to what's already too much. You can't handle what's here now and you're going to add this load past a state university? Don't force honest residents to suffer when some of you supported the mine. You took ownership of it at that point, fully aware of the proposed routes as detailed on the state application, including the 550. Evidently, you were counting on your familiar step-by-step, hurdle-by-hurdle approach. The agreement authorizes a permit to haul 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, for up to 8 years. Do you realize the enormity of that commitment? Your safety improvement clause is laughable. No aspect of adding this load improves safety, not to haul that volume of raw material. That's the same kind of gibberish the Forest Service uses to promote their ever larger timber sales by suggesting they're improving something. Consider the recent and future growth near the Wright Street US 41 junction added to the current congestion. To add that much industrial traffic there is almost as foolish as this board's 2010 vote to force semis to negotiate an impossible U-turn. That mine has no business hauling anything anywhere the way the process was mishandled from day one. All the contention they caused us, only to sell out to this new group who bought the mine knowing the sordid history of not only the mine but the parent company. Like you, they bought into it. It's bad enough the state deals with alleged scoundrels, but to see our local government opt into this mistake is unacceptable. Listen to Mr. Ryan. Get proactive and do something. Be on the leading edge. Promote the rail hauling option. Otherwise, let them haul their ore through the third world, not through our city streets.
Thank you, Mr. Barato. Mr. Lankinen, you said you want to speak on this item?
Good evening. Irma Lankinen, 8 Marquette Drive. I don't even want to respond to the previous malarkey, but anyways, what a fabulous opportunity. One company paying for improvements for the entire community. Loggers don't have to pay for it. Northern Michigan University doesn't have to pay for their trucking. Propane haulers don't have to pay for it. The rest of us citizens don't have to pay for the improvements. All the huge trucking companies, whether it's the mine fly ash being hauled, many trucks during the daytime, they don't have to pay for it. One company is paying for the improvements and asked to be approved or asked to be paid for, and they are willing to pay for it. How often does that happen? One entity pays it for everybody, everybody's use. I consider that a win-win for everybody. And as far as pollution, this entire community used to have coal-fired boilers in their homes. It was pollution all over the place. We don't see any coal-fired heating systems in our community. We don't have the coal plant that we had at Matson Park at one time. Our environment has become much more cleaner, and what a fabulous way to get a improvement for the entire citizens of this community by one company and no tax dollars. That is a no-brainer. That is a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lankinen. Mr. Miller, would you like to say a few words on this item?
You know, the beginning, my name is Craig Miller. I live at 1013 Alloway Road, Marquette, Michigan. In the beginning, you know, like a lot of people, I probably didn't even want this mining operation up here, but they have been transparent. And I've been impressed with the tours and the information they've given to people. And their willingness to pay for these routes to keep the upkeep, the safety, and whatever. I think I pretty much agree with the gentleman. That's almost a no-brainer. One thing that should be remembered, you know, I know the knee-jerk reaction is keep them all out of town. Don't let any truck traffic through. Well, it brings me back to 1997 when the city of Marquette passed a rather controversial smoking ordinance. And, you know, a lot of people didn't like it. And what happened was the state legislature passed legislation preempting Marquette and nullified the Marquette ordinance. And even though there was a ballot initiative to give that authority back to the cities, it was defeated by the voters. The same thing could, if we kept the trucks out of Marquette, this is going to wind up in a state legislature, and they're liable to say, oh, okay, that's it. We'll preempt the authority. It's at the state level from now on, not at the municipal level. And then that might have an effect on what could be a good agreement. So it's just something I think that you have to think of, because if we try to do that, the state's liable to get involved, because Rick Schneider supports the mines. You got a Republican-controlled state legislature, probably supports Lundin mining. So it doesn't take much of a stretch to figure that could happen. So that's an unintended consequence if you try to ban it, and it may not work anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Okay, there's no other citizens wishing to address the commission. Commissioner Coyne, on behalf of our subcommittee, would you like to give us some additional background on this issue, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to say a few words on behalf of the Transportation Subcommittee. This is basically repeating what I said at the work session last week, but only 2 members of the public were there, and this is an opportunity for the public to hear from the subcommittee. Back in August, which is now 9 months ago, the mayor and city commission appointed 3 of us to talk with Lundin to try to work out an agreement. This involved 26 meetings, 740 emails, 325 hours per member working on this, 500 hours of the city manager's time, and countless hours of the city staff supporting this negotiation, and over 10 hours are using an independent attorney because the city attorney's firm had a conflict of interest representing Lundin, so we could not use them, so we used a separate attorney. Well, what took us so long, you might ask? Well, this is a very complex issue. We were dealing with parties in Sweden, the headquarters where the ownership of Lundin is, London, England, where their headquarters are located. They have an office in Canada because it's a Canadian company, and lawyers both in Ishpeming and Marquette. So you can imagine how difficult it was to get everybody together to work on this agreement. First of all, I think the subcommittee and Lundin does not wish to have a haul route in the city. The reality is both parties, I think, are committed and are continuing to be committed to work on a bypass around the city and the township. The EPA basically nixed the first bypass efforts, and that was where the discussions of there would be no way for the city would allow trucks to come through, and that was basically to force the issue of 595 as a negotiating tool. Their decision put us in a real bind. Lundin, our mission was not to be pro or con the mine. We were dealing with the reality of the situation. Lundin had to get their ore from point A to point B, and the most logical and shortest way was not allowed by the EPA. Thus, a few frogs and 2.5 acres of swamp seemed to be more important to them than the people who were affected by the haul route. So it became apparent that some agreement had to be reached. And again, both parties want and continue to want a bypass, but in the meantime, we worked out an agreement that would protect the city's financial interests, one by paying to repair the damage that the trucks would do by driving 180,000-pound trucks through Sugarloaf and Wright Street, avoiding basically bankrupting the city if we were to have to pay this $8 million. We don't have that kind of money. In addition, we would not allow us to continue our efforts every year to spend $4 million to repair the long ignored infrastructure, meaning our city streets, our sewers and water systems. And lastly, we were concerned about the best we could do with the quality of life and issues of safety. During this 8-month period or 9-month period now, we have continued and are continuing today to try to work on the bypass. And in the agreement, the financial agreement, there is a significant incentive for Lundin to continue to work on the bypass, because then their payments to the city and their use of the city roads would be eliminated. And frankly, that also has possibilities for all the other trucks that don't pay anything to use our streets. They pay no taxes because they're based out of the city, and they then could also use the bypass. I must compliment, despite the negative remarks that people are making about Lundin, I would personally say that the previous mining company was essentially impossible to deal with because of their huge size and because you couldn't get anybody pinned down to give an answer and to make a decision. Lundin has been the polar opposite, with at least in our dealings with them as a subcommittee. Paul McCray and Matt Johnson have worked with us. They have been positive, straightforward, fair, used common sense, made a real effort to, I think, see and understand the problems that the city had and the dilemmas we faced. They have worked hard to solve these and have, again, continued to be committed to working on a bypass, as we are. I would like to correct something that I said today on television, and that is I misspoke and was mistaken that we as a commission can vote on this tonight. I was under the assumption there are often things that you can't vote on tonight. You have to have a second hearing. This is not the case. We can vote on, if the commission so wishes, to vote on this. Thank you, Your Honor, for letting me say those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. Commissioners, might we want to suspend the rules to entertain some discussion before a motion, or does someone want to make a motion? Commissioner Reynolds, did you want to be recognized?
I was just going to motion to suspend the rules.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse? Second. Okay. All in favor of suspending the rules say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is passed unanimously. So the rules are suspended. We'll entertain discussion. Who would like to lead off? Commissioner Reynolds, would you like to lead off or defer?
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Ryan?
Well, this is an important issue, and I'm going to support it. And I think it's important to tell citizens why I plan to do that. My highest priority tonight is the same as it always has been, and that is for us to have this mine operating with a bypass route around the city of Marquette, a route that will take some of the traffic out of this area and also out of some of the busiest areas in Marquette Township as well. I think there can be advantages to both units of government. My involvement in this effort started way back in support of County Road 595, both as a member of this group and independently. I did what I could to support that effort. It was not accepted. to make this idea of a bypass work, we need to work with our partners. And I've said that sitting at this table many times. And I view our partners as Marquette Township, Marquette County Road Commission, Marquette County, and the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan also has some real benefits associated with this mine. I think if we can work with these organizations and Lundin Mining, a bypass route is doable within 2 years. It can be done. I mean, there are tentative plans. They're not plans. They have to be a lot more advanced to call them plans. But there are concepts that are out there that can work. Here's a fact. You know, I think it's important to understand this. Either the trucks come through Marquette or the mine doesn't open. I mean, there is no other alternative at this point. I mean, that is an absolute fact. And I don't think that would be a positive thing. I know there are people who don't like the mine, who don't support the mine. I do. And it's not just because I worked for a mining company at one time in the past. I've lived in this county all my life. I know how important jobs are. Right now there are 600 people working up there. At times there have been 800 plus working there. When the mine goes into operation, they expect over 300 people to be working there. Economic developers will tell you every job in the natural resource industry supports 2 other jobs in the community. So, you know, we're talking about the equivalent going forward of 1,000 jobs or more. We've seen recently the many contributions being made to a number of organizations in the community by the Eagle Mine. I think it's also important for people to understand that you can't pass an ordinance that discriminates against one company's trucks. I mean, we can't pass an ordinance that says, well, Lundin Mining can't haul through the community, but Cleveland Cliffs can, and the loggers can, and everybody else can. They have to be treated the same as everybody else. So again, it goes back to the fact either the mine doesn't operate, or for the short term, they come through the community. I think what the committee has come up with is a way to make that possible so the city doesn't suffer economic consequences. Yes, I understand that there are a lot of people who aren't happy with more trucks on our roads, but you know, those are the alternatives we're faced with. Someone has made a comment that the city of Marquette doesn't benefit, and I really disagree with that. I think there are a number of people working at the mine who live in Marquette, who are taxpayers in Marquette. I think there are many businesses in Marquette who have benefited from the Eagle Mine. And even when it comes to the county, one of the benefactors will be Marquette County. Marquette County unit of government. I'm not talking about all the units, but Marquette County itself. When the mine is in production, will probably receive over $1 million in tax revenue every year. That's not the city of Marquette, but about 1/3 of the residents of Marquette County live in the city of Marquette. Marquette County does provide benefits for this city. You know, we don't have our own jail. We use the county jail. We don't have a prosecutor's office. We use the county prosecutor. We don't have our own building code inspection service. We use the county building code inspection service. We don't have our own airport. We use the Marquette County airport. So there are benefits to Marquette City to having a strong Marquette County government. So again, for all of those reasons, my goal is still to have a bypass route around the city of Marquette, and hopefully so it also serves the township of Marquette as well. I think if a route can be developed that comes out in western Marquette Township, it can accomplish that. But I'm also in favor of seeing this move forward, and I personally want to thank the committee for their efforts. I think they've come up with a good plan, and I definitely will support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Any other commissioners, does anyone need to comment on this issue? Commissioner Cambenzi?
Thank you. I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Coyne and Ryan. I think they did a great job of explaining the importance of this. Certainly where we started and how we got here. And I just would like to add a few things. The agreement that you see is very much our agreement. You know, if the trucks are coming through the city, this is what we wanted. 2, this is very much a short-term agreement, we hope. You've heard everyone say that we want to bypass. That is our goal. We will still continue to meet with our neighbors. We do not want to push traffic out into the busiest corridor in our township. We do not want to have these trucks going by NMU. Therefore, we will begin to work with our transportation subcommittee consisting of all of our local jurisdictions after this gets done. As Don pointed out, I think it needs to be mentioned that we need to put continuous pressure on our state legislators. The current bypass route we are looking at, a lot of it looks at existing roads. It looks at very easy ways to move the trucks through the township, and that we have the township support. So we are working with them. We're working on this. I think all around we are trying to be as sensitive to the environment. I know Lundin is, and trying to get in place what we've needed for probably 40 years with our mining, logging, and other industry trucks. But just to go back to the pressure on our state legislators, I have that the state of Michigan will receive $20 million in severance taxes from the mine that goes into the Rural Development Fund. I know several of us have mentioned that we'd like to see some of that money go into helping fund the bypass. The state of Michigan will also receive royalties from the mine, estimated at around $200 million. And, you know, the Humboldt mine, they'll probably receive over $40 million in severance taxes. Now, the city of Marquette, without this agreement tonight, would receive nothing. And as Don mentioned, when you look at telling one company they can come through when another they can't, we ran into some serious issues. And that is why this is before us tonight. Again, it's very much a short-term plan. And I'd like to thank, again, Commissioner Coyne and Commissioner Ryan, because I think they laid out exactly how we got to where we are and the amount of time it took to get here.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambenzi. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
I'd just like to thank Commissioners Coyne and Cambenzi, who were part of the Transportation Subcommittee. I was also on that committee. And I can't think of two people that were better to work with on trying to solve a very difficult project over a very long period of time. And it was a wrestling match. It was a struggle. It wasn't easy. I do commend Lundin Mining for their efforts on our behalf and the gentlemanliness of which I'll call them negotiations were conducted. It was time well spent and I think an exceptionally good outcome for everybody. I would emphasize too that I view this as a short-term solution, and the hope is that the continued desire is that we'll be able to get that bypass constructed within 2 years or perhaps 3. And that then solves not only Lundin's problem of coming through the city, through Wright Street, but also would allow a better venue for other trucking activities that are currently using that route. So it can be a win-win for a lot of people. I would point out, too, that the contract is really kind of backloaded from the standpoint that it provides very strong economic incentives to have that bypass built. Because when the bypass becomes operational, at that point, the mining company is no longer paying the city any money, and that can be obviously a very significant financial attraction for the company, with all of us benefiting terrifically. I would point out, too, as Commissioner Cambenzi said, that it is very important that we keep the pressure on the state legislature, particularly our local representatives. When you think of the money that the state is getting, the county is getting, and Humboldt Township is getting from the mine, and look at that in comparison to what the city is getting, and then kind of roll that around a little bit, the city gets nothing, of course, is to look at it from the standpoint of some of that money should be diverted to be able to build this bypass, because not only will the mining companies and other hauling companies benefit from it, but literally it would provide an opportunity for opening up part of our state, part of our county, to additional economic development. So it's certainly very, very important for all of us. But I fully support the motion or as made, or the recommendation as made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Mr. Campana, Commissioner Campana, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would have to agree with everything that's being said tonight by my fellow commissioners. It's a shame that trucks do have to come through Marquette, but I don't think we have any other choice. We're very fortunate to have hundreds and hundreds of men and women working. I mean, that is too good of a fact to have. I think our subcommittee did a very good job in reaching this agreement. I know they worked hard. I had nothing to do with it, and I have to take, what they accomplished is what it should be. I would have to agree with what they accomplished. I don't think we could have gotten a better agreement. We're getting a lot of money. I asked if that was the proper amount of money, and it was. We're not getting shortchanged by it. Lastly, there is a financial incentive in this agreement that will hopefully make Lundin find a bypass. The bypass will not come easy because you got a couple townships and a couple private property owners who do not want a road coming through there. But I think in the long run it will happen. And again, it's a financial incentive, and it'll be a very good thing for the mine. So I think it will happen. I think this whole project is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campana. Commissioner Reynolds?
I just have one question. I would just like to also thank the Transportation Subcommittee for all the work they've done. And I just have one question for staff regarding the agreement. In the agreement, it talks about safety, and that's the biggest issue that a lot of people ask me about this. And I just wanted to make sure it was my understanding that if this passes, the $200,000 would go into a fund, and then staff would create the safety plan. I just wanted to.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding, Commissioner Reynolds, that the funding would be put aside into a dedicated funding line that would be dedicated exclusively to the public safety requirements associated with the traffic management in that area. It's something that we would coordinate in partnership with Northern and the other entities along that route to make sure we are addressing their concerns, reconciling it with our multi-use roadway strategy, our safe street strategy, our walkability strategies, our trail strategies, ultimately to put in place all of the common requirements of those plans. One of the things that we discussed, and it's also in the agreement, is that it's a $200,000 a year commitment that would go into funding those improvements. But if there are things that exceed that $200,000, we have the opportunity to accelerate that, and Lundin has agreed to pre-finance anything that would be above that $200,000 necessary to ensure the safety of that route. So it's something that won't just be a staff process. It'll be, again, part of the coordination that we're doing that's been spoken about this evening with the other jurisdictions in the community.
Thank you.
Anything further, Commissioner Reynolds? Or?
Nothing further.
Okay. Any other Commissioner Cambenzi?
Just real quick, again, I'd like to thank Paul and Matt from Lundin. These were difficult conversations, and I think certainly they understood where we were coming from, trying to balance the sentiment of many people in the city, especially from a safety standpoint. And I'd also just like to thank Brian Sheridan, who stepped in as a special counsel to the city of Marquette due to a conflict of interest with Mr. Keefe, due to his firm representing the other side of this agreement. And he did an excellent job, I guess, kind of teasing this out and making sure that we were on the same page, and I'd just like to thank him.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambenzi. Any other commissioners? Any other final comments? I guess I'll weigh in here. Certainly, citizens are going to experience some negatives with additional truck traffic on Wright Street. Wright Street certainly has a lot of truck traffic. It's not Lundin's fault that 595 didn't go through. It's not Lundin's fault necessarily that we don't have a bypass. We're working on that. I think I'd like to also thank our transportation subcommittee. They've done a very good job and put in a lot of work and effort. They did it as the four of us all sat back and enjoyed the fruits of their labors, and for that I'm very appreciative. I think one aspect when we talk about safety, certainly everyone wants to operate safely. Lundin wants to operate safely. We want to operate safely. And I spent 31 years dealing with drivers operating vehicles, and I know that the drivers in their trucks want to operate safely because it's their lives on the line as they operate those trucks, as well as lives of people in the community. and I'm sure that Lundin will be good corporate neighbors and will monitor the transfer of the trucks and transfer of the ore, and has procedures in place to assure that the ore, which everyone fears will stay in the truck and not be outside the truck. So I think this, we're doing the best we can. I think we have a good agreement, the best agreement we can have, and we all look forward to getting a bypass, and that's it's going to benefit not only Lundin and the city of Marquette, but all truckers in the township, and certainly a bypass is a much better way for people to transport with trucks. So, any final comments of anyone? City Manager, any comments? Final comments?
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, do you have any final comments, or?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, Matt Johnson, 132 Dukes Road, representing over 600 men and women at Eagle Mine who woke up this morning to come to work. We're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the last many years. We know it's been difficult for some of the changes that the community will experience, but also the benefits and jobs, and the construction jobs, and the 330 full-time jobs that would be created as we move into operations. In fact, today we're hiring almost every day, and there's new faces in the office every day, and sometimes we have hundreds of applicants for each job that we're posting. So certainly the need is there. Not to mention the taxes that will be provided to the local community, and of course the royalties to the state of Michigan. I would like to just offer a special thanks to the subcommittee that we've been working with for the past many months. Our discussions have not been easy. It has taken a long time to agree on what's best for the community, for the city, and for the company. Essentially, we all agreed from day one that safety is our number one concern, as well as the whatever impact there could be on city taxpayers, which we believe we've now alleviated with the agreement before you. I want to emphasize, however, that this is just the first step. We have a lot more work to do. The agreement spells that out, whether it's looking at safety improvements, working with city residents, with residents of NMU, and also with the other local units of government to identify a potential bypass that would, as mentioned, not only reduce the truck traffic in the city, but also potentially reduce truck traffic in the very busy commercial corridor in Marquette Township. So again, on behalf of Eagle Mine, I just want to thank you for the efforts in working with us, and we look forward to those discussions to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Fellow Commissioners, what is your pleasure with this item? Commissioner Coyne?
I would like to make a motion to approve the Lundin hauling agreement, and if so approved, authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the agreement as soon as possible.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Reynolds?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Commissioner Reynolds, to approve the hauling agreement with Lundin Mining. Commissioner Coyne, anything further?
Nope.
Commissioner Reynolds, anything further?
Nothing further.
Any other commissioners want to make a comment on the motion or discussion? Motion?
All been said.
Okay. I agree. I think everything has been said. I'll call the question. Again, the motion is, it's been moved by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Commissioner Reynolds, to approve the haul agreement with Lundin Mining. I just have to quick look at the motion here to see if there's anything special, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement. All in favor, say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is item number 6, Lakeview Arena Old Skateboard Park. City Clerk, do you have some background material on this?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Annually, city staff auctions obsolete equipment. The city and a local nonprofit establish a skateboard plaza at Lakeview Arena, creating an urban skating experience for local users. The skateboard plaza was the result of a community effort that included countless hours of volunteer work from local youth. It was understood by all parties when the project was completed, the old skateboard park located in the same general area would be decommissioned and dismantled. Staff is asking the City Commission to consider declaring the old skateboard park features as obsolete and request bids to have the features dismantled and removed. Any cost to dismantle and remove will be the responsibility of the bidder. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board reviewed the issue and made the following motion. It was moved by Likens, seconded by Conover, and approved unanimously that the city take the necessary steps to decommission the old skateboard park. Staff recommends local municipalities be offered priority with this action. Fiscal effect, no funds requested with this action. Recommendation, declare the Lakeview Arena's old skateboard park features as obsolete and authorize city staff to prepare them for auction and offer first priority for bid award to local municipalities. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Fellow Commissioners, what is your pleasure with this item? Commissioner Ryan.
Declare the Lakeview Arena's old skateboard park features as obsolete and authorize city staff to prepare them for auction and offer first priority bid award to local municipalities.
Thank you. Is there a second for the motion? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse to declare the Lakeview Arena Old Skate Park features as obsolete, authorize city staff to prepare them for auction and offer first priority to local municipalities. Anything further, Commissioner Ryan?
Just we've moved forward to something bigger and better, and it's time to move on.
Okay. Commissioner Stonehouse, anything?
No.
Any other Commissioner Cambenzi?
I did have someone ask me, a student ask me if they would be able to bid on this, and I said probably not. Can I just get clarification that we cannot, I guess, award this to an individual? Does it have to be a municipality?
Could be.
Typically, we would open it up and anyone in the public can bid on it. We're just suggesting that other municipalities be given first offer or first priority, because we have had several communities call and
Cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry.
Speak into the microphone.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone from the public can bid on these items. We've had several communities call and inquire on them, and we're just suggesting that those municipalities give first priority.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zuger. Anything further, Commissioner Cambenzi? Any other commissioners have anything to add to the discussion? Hearing none, I'd call the question. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse to declare the old skate park obsolete, authorize staff to prepare for auction, and offer first priority to local units of government. The city clerk will flesh that out properly. All in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed to the motion say no. The motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the Cinder Pond Marina Harbor Master Slip Agreement. City Clerk, do you have some background material on this item?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The Harbor Master has requested use of a Cinder Pond Marina slip for purposes of maintaining mooring field and waterfront safety response operations. The Harbor Master has been in discussion with John Tomczyk, Daybreak Charters LLC, as a possible vessel for said purposes. Some of the requirements would include the placement and removal of mooring tackle in the spring and fall, 2 waterfront safety exercises, reasonable availability of the vessel for emergency events, vessel to be available prior to and after Cinder Pond Marina official opening and closing dates to assist with mooring field maintenance, and the owner will be responsible to operate the vessel on all occasions. Daybreak Charters LLC has a 27-foot vessel thought to be sufficient as a working platform to conduct mooring field maintenance and waterfront safety activities. The owner will provide standard insurance registration and professional licenses required for such activities. Staff believes compensation for providing an operator and vessel is approximately $150 per hour. Based on the hours anticipated for annual mooring field maintenance and waterfront exercises, it is believed the slip rate for a 30-foot slip would be just compensation. Daybreak Charters LLC has a seasonal slip in Cinder Pond Marina, and if approved, would be relieved of all costs associated with the annual mooring. The total cost for their seasonal slip is $2,788. Fiscal effect, $2,788 would be reduced from the Cinder Pond Marina Fund revenues for fiscal year 2013 and 14. Recommendation, approve the Harbor Master request for a slip in the Cinder Pond Marina for a 30-foot slip and authorize the city attorney to draft an agreement with Daybreak Charters LLC to provide mooring field maintenance and waterfront safety response operations. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Fellow Commissioners, what is your pleasure with this item? Commissioner Ryan?
I move we approve the Harbor Master request for a slip in the Cinder Pond Marina for a 30-foot slip and authorize the city attorney to draft an agreement with Daybreak Charters LLC to provide mooring field maintenance and waterfront safety response operations.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
I will second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse to approve the Harbor Master request for a slip in the Cinder Pond Marina, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anything further, Commissioner Ryan?
Yes, I had the benefit of a conversation with the Harbor Master to get some insight into this issue, and I think it's important for people to understand that in this case, as I understand it, this was initiated by the city as a way to deal with some issues that we have to deal with in the harbor, as opposed to some other cases where someone came to us and said, we'll do this for you if you do that for us. So the only concern I have is, it's going to show less revenue coming into the Cinder Pond Marina. I mentioned that I've been in other businesses in the past where they use what they call the trade-out term, where they exchange services. But this accomplishes the same thing, and it allows us to get on with the project, so I think it's worth doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Stonehouse, anything further on this item?
I would only indicate I think it's a good deal for the city. When you consider that, at least I'm projecting that fuel this summer is going to be somewhere around $4.65 to $4.70 a gallon at the marina. That's an expensive proposition to operate. So I think trading the boat time for the slip is certainly a very good proposition on the part of the city.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Campana?
This situation looks like something that we probably need. The question is, what were we doing last year and the year before? Is this the first time?
This is the first time.
What did we do previously?
Mr. Harbor Master, would you like to respond to that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Last year was the first year for our mooring field, and we used one of my officers' private boat, and I compensated him for the gasoline. I've been looking for a method or a way to get out of that situation and try to make it more official, and this will do that for me.
Thank you, Harbor Master. Mr. Campana, does that answer your question?
It answers my question. It looks like it's a better situation.
Okay. Any other commissioners? I guess I just have a comment. I know we have another trade-out that I've never supported, and I'm not real keen on. This is a little better. I think when you look at the benefits, I think it'll be closer to the compensation that will be provided and for giving the slip fee. So I guess I will support this. All in favor? Well, it's been moved by Commissioner Ryan, supported by Commissioner Stonehouse, to approve the Harbor Master request for a slip in the Cinder Pond Marina for a 30-foot slip and authorize the city attorney to draft an agreement with Daybreak Charters LLC to provide mooring field maintenance and waterfront safety response operations. All commissioners in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any commissioners opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously. The last business item on our agenda is appoint an All-America City Awards City Commission delegate, the All-American boy. City Clerk, do you have any or girl, any additional background on this?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. In March, the city submitted a written application for the All-America City Award, a nationally recognized designation awarded annually by the National Civic League. In explaining why Marquette should be named an All-America City, the application highlighted community efforts and projects related to healthy living in addition to city highlighted community efforts and projects related to healthy living in addition to city actions, various undertakings by the Marquette Food Co-op, Peter White Public Library, and the YMCA of Marquette County were key to the written application and showed Marquette to be striving for physical, mental, and environmental well-being. Recently, the National Civic League announced that the City of Marquette is one of 25 national finalists for the 2014 All-America City Awards and invited all finalists to send delegations to its national conference to present their community story. The conference will be held in Denver, June 13th through the 15th, and the 10 award recipients will be announced following the presentations. Staff is proposing to send 2 city representatives, including 1 elected official. The YMCA, the Marquette Food Co-op, and Peter White Public Library have been invited to do the same. Additionally, invitations have been sent out to other groups highlighted in the application, inviting them to send a representative if interested. Fiscal effect none by this action. Travel and lodging costs for 2 city representatives will come from the city's strategic development account, and the city will cover the conference registration costs for up to 12 delegates. Recommendation, appoint a member of the City Commission to act as a Marquette delegate to the National Civic League's All-American City Awards Conference to be held in Denver on June 13th through the 15th. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse has indicated a willingness to provide this service on our behalf. I'm unavailable at that time. If there's no objections from other commissioners, I guess I would entertain a motion approving that. Commissioner Coyne?
I move that we appoint Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse to act as a Marquette delegate to the National Civic League's All-American City Award Conference to be held in Denver, June 13th through 15th.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. Is there a second to the motion? Commissioner Campana?
I will second that.
Okay. It's been moved. And any further discussion, Commissioner Coyne?
I think Fred will be a very good representative, and I also want to thank Kyle for a really great job. Thank you for your efforts to get us this far, and even if we're just a finalist, you really have done a very nice job. Thank you.
Commissioner Campana, anything further?
Just it's an honor for Marquette to be considered for this, and I'm glad Fred's going and I'm not, because I hate to leave Marquette in the summertime, so thank you.
Commissioner Stonehouse, will you like to give your consent to
Are you entirely sure it will be summer by then?
Good point.
But certainly I would be very willing to serve and to do anything I can to move the city forward. So I appreciate your confidence.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Commissioner Kambenzi?
Well, just that I leave for Iceland on June 16th, and I don't want to do anything to jeopardize me being able to get out of here, so I'm glad Commissioner Stonehouse is willing to go. I did sit in on this group in the very beginning, kind of as a commissioner, but also as a representative of the Marquette Area Public Schools, and there is a lively group. I think they can come up with a great skit. I look forward to seeing what Fred adds to that. But I think this is great, and I'd also just like to thank Kyle. He's worked pretty hard on this, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kambenzi. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Ryan?
I was just going to say, when Kyle made his presentation, he said there would be a 10-minute question and answer period as part of this. As someone who's worked in the media and done that kind of thing in the past, keep your answers short. Many short answers are better than too long-winded ones, so just friendly advice.
And the more questions the judges get to ask, the better off you're going to be.
That's right.
Any further comments from anyone? Okay, I call the question. It's been moved by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Commissioner Campana, to appoint Commissioner Stonehouse as the City Commission's representative to the All-America City Award. He's going to be the All-America boy. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. The motion passes unanimously, and I thank you, Commissioner or Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse, for being willing to step up and help us out. The next item on the agenda is comments from the Commission. We'll start with Commissioner Cambenzi.
Thank you. Two things. One, the first one, I'm going to remind my fellow commissioners again, I have made my pledge to help support sending the final 4 American Legion Auxiliary alternates, the girls. They had 4 going this year, but they also had 4 alternates that wanted to go to the Boys and Girls State. That is where they go down to Lansing at the Capitol and spend a week role-playing various government roles. They get elected, appointed, and they have to not only vie for these positions, but then they also have to perform and do a good job. And as Mayor Nemi will probably agree, and City Manager Vida, who went with us, it gets pretty competitive, and these young men and women truly got to see what it's like being in government, making hard decisions, the politics of it all. I think it's pretty inspiring. And for me, it motivated me to know that there's 4 other, particularly women, that would like to go down and be a part of this. And so I've made a pledge to help contribute to send those 4 women down. They are going in June. The deadline to help them go would probably be the end of this month, but they only need a little over $1,700 to make it, and all 4 of them can go. So I would urge the community, I'd urge my fellow commissioners, and certainly any other women in government to kind of help support this and get behind it. I think it's a great event, and also this is our future, so it's nice to see that. The only other thing I want to mention with the rowing club, the community does support the rowing club 100%, even more than 100%. But when I talk to people who are against it, it has to do with the location. It has to do, when you look at the names on those lists, a lot of those people, mayors, planning commissioners, former city commissioners, it took a long time to plan our waterfront and get to where we are. And I think people take a lot of pride in that. Anytime you alter a plan that has taken so long, certainly Founders Landing has been very controversial, every part of it. I think it's best to have a community process, and I really don't think we as a commission did that. We've been talking about the boathouse, but from the time when the exact location came up to when it was passed, it was only 8 weeks. And I have a problem with that. Especially when the people that came before me spent years and years and years. And some of those plans that they've planned for, maybe they won't come to fruition, but I think we haven't even had the opportunity to explore perhaps the best long-term location for this. So again, I would urge my fellow commissioners to consider this. I'm pleased that the rowing club is willing to consider some alternatives. I think that would be a win-win. And again, I look forward to the work session coming up. That's next Wednesday, 4 p.m. here at City Hall for anyone who'd like to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cambenzi. Commissioner Campana.
Your Honor, first of all, this workshop is not this coming Wednesday. It's a week from this Wednesday, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because that was confusing. Right. And there are intense feelings on both sides, but I'm glad to see that at least both sides are being fairly civil about this. I mean, it could get a lot worse. We've seen it here before, not with them, but with other people. And second of all, I'd like to thank Dan Emmendorfer and his board for his presentation. They deal with city money, and he's doing a good job, and they're to be commended. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Campana. Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse.
A couple of quick things, if I can. First of all, just to comment again on the Lundin agreement. I think it's a good one. It certainly covers the street improvements that we all know need to be done, the street maintenance that needs to be done that financially protects the city. It also serves to encourage the construction of the bypass, and that is very important to all of us, and it's something that we need to keep behind. We need to keep our eye on that ball. We need to keep encouraging our state representative to come across with the funding that certainly is available in Lansing. And finally, in just this, as a simple term, it is a very workable temporary compromise, and that's the way I think we need to view it. I would, just a quick comment on the rowing club controversy. It's inconceivable to me to make the statement, we are 100% behind the rowing club, without making the next statement, which is we think they should be here. In other words, if you can't come up with a viable solution for a group that has to be on calm water on the harbor to be successful, then you cannot simply say no. So the challenge that the folks that are trying to advocate that it should not be where the location has been temporarily selected, I guess, is that they need to provide an alternate location on the water that meets all of the very definable objectives of the rowing club. If you can't do those two things, you cannot make the statement, we are 100% behind the rowing club. Those two things don't match up at all. If you're going to do one, you got to do the other. I would also just remind folks in terms of public input to this process or this controversy, it's gone through the Harbor Activities Committee, or Harbor Advisory Committee, it's gone through Parks and Recreation Committee, it's gone through the Planning Commission, and now we're setting up a special commission work session for it. So when you look at all of the steps for public input, that is quite considerable, and certainly, again, we have one more yet to go. So food for thought, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stonehouse. Commissioner Reynolds.
Actually don't really have anything this evening. Just wanted to thank Kyle for all the hard work, and I look forward to seeing what happens in June, and happy spring, everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner Reynolds. Commissioner Ryan.
I'm glad we were able to deal with the issue of the trucks hauling through the community. I think it's been a long time in coming, and I do appreciate the effort put in by Commissioners Coyne and Stonehouse and Cambenzi in bringing that to fruition, as well as the representatives from Lundin. I know that not everyone is going to be happy. I think if you live on Wright Street, it's an issue for you. It's a concern, as well as some other people. As I said today, it comes down to a couple of very simple facts. Either the trucks come through the community now or the mine doesn't open, and that has economic consequences to it. And I think those consequences would be quite severe. But having said that, I still believe the answer is a bypass. I think it's doable. I think a reasonable bypass can be done if we can work with Marquette Township, Marquette County Road Commission, Marquette County, and the state of Michigan. I think it's doable, and I think it will happen, and I think it can be done within a couple of years, and I think that's a good thing. On the rowing club, I'm not going to say a lot on it now. It's just I do also hope that it continues to be a civil discussion. I think it's a little unfair when the rowing club has been characterized by some as a private club. You know, I would say to you that many of the good things that happen in this community happen because they're carried out by private clubs, and I could probably name a dozen, you know, if you wanted me to. They're really organizations where people come together to accomplish a goal for the community, and that's what happens here, and it's what's happened so many times with the Caymanon and Superior Land Soccer and on, the YMCA. You know, they're all private clubs in a sense, so as I say, I hope this continues to be a civil discussion. We didn't really detail it today, but in our consent agenda, we did approve contracting for the temporary restrooms at the Cinder Pond Marina, and they are a step above porta potties, so that's a good thing. I know that was a concern on the part of some people. There are limits as to what you can do, and we also moved ahead with a contract on tearing down the existing facility, which again is an important part of moving forward. You know, we recognize that boating seasons are short in this part of the country. This season will be shorter than ever. Hopefully the lake will be clear by when? July maybe? I don't know, Fred. But you know, we want to certainly be able to service the boaters in the community as best we can. So I'm glad to see us moving forward on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Coyne.
Well, I have several things. One, this next week, 2 weeks, we're going to have strategic planning meetings, lots of them, and that's a new thing because of the new charter, a new charter requirement. And I think, frankly, that's probably the second most important thing that we do after the budget. And I would encourage people to come. It's, you know, where we're going to go in the future. People running for office or who plan ever to run for office ought to participate in that so they know what we're up to and what they're going to get into and where the city is going. I would hope that, and I asked the city manager this earlier this evening, if he might consider giving a report and recommendation on the residents' request to expand the anti-discrimination ordinance. And rather than just ignore that, I think we could have some position on that, perhaps. I'd like to ask if he would consider that. I'm really glad we're having the work session regarding the boathouse. You know, the three of us are really good at compromising and working out things. This will be a piece of cake compared to the Lundin deal. And I think the points made, it just doesn't do any good to be against it. You have to have a solution. And I think we will come to a solution. We already voted, 6 of us, to do this. And I think this is a good thing we're meeting. Just to remind the city manager, I noticed that the representatives of Lundin are still here. I think Paul McRae has his pen out and is ready to sign, and hopefully we could do that this evening after the meeting. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. I only have 2 things. I echo Commissioner Cambenzi's plea for people to donate to the American Legion to support 4 more girls to go to Girls State. We have 4 fine young women who are alternates. If the Legion can raise the $1,700, we can have 4 more girls who go to Girls State, and I think that would be a fine thing. I will be donating to that. To kind of dovetail on Commissioner Coyne's note about strategic planning sessions, we will be having them Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, and Thursday morning, starting tomorrow, Wednesday, and then Thursday at 8 a.m. The last one, the wrap-up session, will be Monday, May 19th at 5 p.m. at the Pavilion on Presque Isle. And so I encourage people to participate in those. They'll be kind of like budget sessions. We've got a whole big folder that we're going to be receiving. We've received it electronically, and everyone is expected to be reading that and studying it. And we will be prepared to commence tomorrow morning. City Manager, do you have some community office hours you'd like to announce and some other items?
I do. Thank you, Your Honor. Only to reinforce the strategic planning will be here in the Commission Chamber. And so we've got it set up so we can have maximum participation, and we'd encourage everybody to come. We're gratified to hear the Commission is taking it so seriously, and we'll look forward to a robust discussion. We have community office hours this week also. They'll be 10 o'clock at Peter White Public Library in the public conference room. And from 10 to 12, we encourage everybody to come down and share with us their ideas on how we can make Marquette even better. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Manager. There will be no further business. No last comments by anyone. We are adjourned. And